Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, your go-to WAFL podcast in season 2024, available on YouTube and where you get your podcast. Well, this weekend is round 16 of the WAFL with only 3 games to look ahead to, and all of them could shape up the final 5 once again. The competition really heating up, heading into the business end. The run home to September really is starting to hot up, no doubt about that. Paul Persick with you in the studio alongside the one and only Ethan Roth. Rothy, great to have you on once again. 3 vital games coming up, and no certainty is ever a certainty in the WAFL.
That's it, Paul. 3 huge games to look forward to. So, yeah, keen to crack in today.
No doubt about it. And in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with West Perth's gun midfielder Shane Nelson on the big game against East Fremantle at Pentanet Stadium in Joondalup. And just a reminder as well, all games this weekend are live, free and in full on the AFL app. So be sure to check them out on Saturday. First, here's how you can win big at the WAFL.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Yes, win-win in 2024. While West Perth, they've had a bit of a tough season in season 2024, coming off a loss to the Eagles and looking to really make a statement that they could be on the road back in season 2025. They take on the reigning premiers at Pentanet Stadium in Joondalup. A very important game for them, no doubt about that. Hopefully a big crowd and pleasant conditions for what is going to be a very interesting game. Joining us now, he's been one of their guns for many, many years. He averages some 30 disposals a game. He's an absolute ball magnet. He's Shane Nelson, and he's good enough to join us here on Around the WAFL. Shane, good morning to you, mate.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show. Let's go back to the loss against the Eagles. There's no doubt that the intention is to regroup after that loss because you hadn't lost to the Eagles in something like 5 years, and they really gave you a bit of a fright.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they obviously had a quality side in on the win. But yeah, look, we certainly put up a good fight, but unfortunately, we weren't able to get the result away.
How do you prepare for a side like the Eagles? Obviously, their team tends to change each week, and it was hard probably seeing a Darling coming back into the lineup, So how do you deal with that? I guess probably having to find out on the fly a bit about who's coming in, who's coming out of their side.
Yeah, look, we sort of just prepare as normal and expect the guys that are emergency and whatnot to play that particular week. So yeah, look, we don't think too much about it. We basically just roll up and hopefully we prepare for guys like Jack Darling and those that have been on the extended bench to play. And then yeah, if they don't play, then yeah, so be it. But yeah, there's not really a lot you can do playing against Pure Thunder. Same sort of situation. They obviously don't really get him until the last minute. So yeah, we sort of just as normal, and then yeah, whoever rolls out is whoever rolls out.
Now, but despite the loss to West Coast on Saturday, one of the big positives about this season for West Perth, even though they're at the bottom end of the ladder as well, is that they're highlighting a lot of young players in that side. A lot of young players have got tremendous opportunities at West Perth. Case in point, Jack D'Amato, who had a great game up forward with 4 goals. Brock Carter is starting to blossom in the ruck. Would it be fair to say that those young talents are going to be a big part of West Perth's future? Should they climb back up the ladder in 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sort of game that Jack D'Amato's had on the weekend, the more games we can get into these younger guys, it's going to benefit us going forward on. So, it's been disappointing that we probably haven't reached the levels that we would have liked to reach so far this year. But like you said, some of the positives to come out is just the younger guys that are really performing and taking their chance to full level.
And Saturday against East Fremantle, we've had some good battles with them in the past, so you guys must be looking forward to, I guess, putting that loss behind you and moving on to a side who has won their last couple of games.
Yeah, look, we've had some great battles with East Fremantle over the years. They're a very good side, obviously the reigning premiers, and we'll be looking to try and bounce back on our home this week and put in a solid performance and repay the faith of the supporters that have stuck around showed that they're loyal supporters, and we need to start sort of footies that we know that we can play, and hopefully it starts this week.
How do you rate Jason Salasic's game plan? Obviously, the new coach in his first year, taking over from Darren Harris. Obviously, the first year is always a big challenge, but how have you made of his work as senior coach in the league side?
Yeah, he's been unbelievable for us. We obviously haven't been getting results that we would have liked, but he's come into the club and he loves the club. He's so passionate about it. He's obviously a champion of Perth, and he just wants us to be the best that we can be each week. And I think we've been able to stick together through this sort of tough time. We're stuck in a bit of a phase at the moment where we need to show some resilience and try and find our way back and play the sort of football we can play. So, Jace has been incredible at trying to put that and stay calm and focused on the outcome that, we need to get back to playing some good footy. And he hasn't sort of wavered away from any of that. He's been, positive and just, wants to see us succeed.
It's going to be a big game on Saturday at Pentanet Stadium against the reigning premiers. Always a big test. We wish you all the very best of luck. Shane Nelson, we really appreciate your time here on Around the Waffle. Go get him against the Sharks on Saturday.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
That was Shane Nelson, West Perth gun midfielder, joining us here on Around the Waffle. And yeah, it is a bit of a rebounding sort of phase for West Perth. Obviously, they've lost a couple of gun players over the last couple of years, and they're going through a new dynamic under Coach Salasic. But, Salasic, as Shane alluded to, champion player at West Perth, won a couple of premierships, so he knows what he's doing, but, always the first year is a bit of a handful.
Yeah, and they've been so successful for so long, so it'll only take time, and I believe he'll be there for a long period of time as well. He's so passionate about the club. Obviously, he bleeds West Perth through and through. And Shane Nelson as well. He's not slowing down. Hopefully for the Waffle's sake, he'll go around again next year. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that front.
Absolutely, a big game for West Perth against East Fremantle on Saturday. We must thank Shane Nelson once again for jumping on today's edition of Around the Waffle. Coming up, we'll preview all the big games for round 16. But first, you can check out some great merch here. Introducing the WAFL Merch Shop, your ultimate destination for all things WAFL. From jerseys to scarves to caps, show your support for the WAFL in style. Grab exclusive merchandise now and gear up to cheer louder than ever before. Visit shop.wafl.com.au today and let your passion shine. Yes, shop.wafl.com.au. It is represented worldwide with waffle shirts, waffle beanies on all corners of the globe. Let's get to the games for round 16. Starting off at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, East Perth and Perth on Saturday at 2:30, live on the AFL app. East Perth, they've had a couple of good wins against the Demons in their last meetings. They were taken to by the Demons on Anzac Day back in their last meeting. It was only 21 points. But when you're looking at East Perth's depth all around the ground, they are still the team to watch in season 2024. They'll be fresh off the bye, and I reckon my biggest concern for them is, don't take any side too lightly now, and also you've got to put away your opponents because they've had trouble with that over the last couple of games.
You've got to, take your chances, as you said. Yeah, it's not 100% given this game, East Perth, obviously warm favourites, but it's both teams fresh off the bye, as you said. Will Brayshaw come back? That's a question mark, I guess, as well.
Yeah, he's been off for a couple of weeks as a result of an injury to his quad, I believe, that he had earlier in the season. But if he does come back, which I reckon he should, that's a huge bonus for East Perth. Obviously he's had an interrupted season, had an injury and concussion in the pre-season, so he hasn't been at his best. But when he's at his best, he is hard to stop, is Hammer. And I reckon if he comes back, that's going to be massive for the Royals come Saturday.
If he can get some continuity over a set number of weeks, as you said, he's had an interrupted year coming off a Sandover medal, so can't be too harsh on him, of course. And I think a big challenge, will be Schlensog in the ruck. He has obviously coming up against Scott Jones.
Question is, will Schlensog still be that number one ruckman? Or if Josh Edwards comes back, of course, he sustained broken ribs in the win over West Perth a couple of weeks ago, does he play that backup role? I reckon they'd be good playing in tandem in the ruck. If they share the ruck duties around, that'll give East Perth, a bit of question marks. How does Scott Jones take both of them on?
Yeah, I think Schlensog's so versatile, so you could put him anywhere and then use him as a backup ruck, almost like a Mark Blitzer subs type, around the ground.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. And the way Schleswig has been performing in the ruck in place of Edwards, not only in the game against West Perth, but also against East Fremantle, despite losing by 14 points to the Sharks, I still think, he's got what it takes to not only be a good ruckman, but also a good half-back, because that's where he really honed his craft at half-back. But then he was thrust into the ruck role by Peter German after Edwards' injury, and he's lifted in that responsibility. So that adds to his versatility and his repertoire as a key footballer.
Yeah, I don't think the Demons mind playing at Sullivan Logistics Stadium as well. I don't think, it's not feared for them. I think a challenge presents itself, if they can play some four-quarter footy there as well. So they need to be able to win games on the road. We've said that all year, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. They do need to win games on the road, not just at home, but also the other level that we were told just after the interview with Shane Nelson that the conditions aren't going to be pleasant. It's going to be raining all throughout the afternoon. So it's always a great leveler, but it's always an unknown in wet conditions. So I said at the beginning, no certainty is a certainty in the WAFL. The weather conditions this week at least prove why.
Yeah, I think that might help the Demons, though. That scrappy game, low scoring, goals will be extra valuable. So, yeah, I think they won't mind it for their sake.
With that in mind, who takes the points?
I still think East Perth, a bit more class in their side, and I expect them to get the job done.
Yeah, I'll say East Perth as well, but I think Perth will take it to them. I reckon Perth will give them a nice little going over, but East Perth, for me, will take the points. Only by about 3 goals over there at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. Interesting game, that one will certainly be. You can catch that one on Saturday at 2:30 on the AFL app. East Perth and Perth at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. And then one of the big ones of the season, West Perth, who are looking to regroup. They take on the reigning premiers on the rampage, East Fremantle. The Sharks looking for their 3rd straight win and to keep their hopes of the double chance well and truly alive. This is from Pentanet Stadium in Joondalup, 2:30 on Saturday on the AFL app. The Sharks are coming into some great form at the right time as well, and they'd be starting this game as favourites.
Yeah, and the Sharks have had the Falcons' number in the last 2 encounters. So, yeah, West Perth want to regroup, and Sharks, great way to, shape themselves at a good time. And I think, East Fremantle just have to bank this for their sake. Otherwise, I feel like all their good work in the last couple of weeks has gone for nothing. East Fremantle have been a bit unpredictable at times, and, don't want to predict anything or, I guess, catch any Sharks fans off guard. But this would be a game where if their unpredictability comes into it, they could cost themselves.
But also, West Perth, they want to get up for this game, coming off that loss to the West Coast Eagles. They want to regroup in front of their home crowd and offer some positive signs for 2025 at least, especially with Shane Nelson mentioning about the young kids that have really stood up, the likes of Carter, DeMarte and company as well. So that could be a real positive if they can somehow get the job done against the reigning premiers. At this case, it's easier said than done.
Yeah, it is. And obviously the wet weather comes into it. Expect the loyal Falcons fans to still show up, which will help them. But, I think it's a given. It's a no-brainer. Tyler Keitel needs more backup inside that forward 50.
That's one of my areas of concern all season. They kept relying on Tyler Keitel. Okay, he's been kicking big bags of goals, but you need your added avenue to goal to really bolster the scoreboard pressure. Not's been in the reserves, and obviously the forward line has been hurt since Jasper Scaife got drafted by Hawthorn in the mid-season draft. They haven't been able to find a valuable option since.
They need these guys like Kerner and the likes to really step up. And I think
DeMarte.
In a wet weather game, that could be, their focal point for them, because Tyler Keitel, key forward, we know wet conditions probably doesn't suit the taller players as much. So this could be a golden opportunity for a West Perth forward to really stamp their authority.
On the other side of the coin, you make a very good point. The wet conditions don't suit the tall forwards that often. That could provide a great opportunity for the likes of Erdley, who's playing, despite being reported in the game against Peel Thunder last weekend. Erdley, Max Murphy and Lennon Marlin in the back line to really shut down West Perth's usually tall forward line, because they're not like 195, 196 centimetres like Tyler Keitel is. They're a lot smaller, but they're more versatile and agile in those conditions.
Do it well at ground level, and you just get the sense that Milan Murdoch really would set himself for this game, and even Chet Hagan as well. Those in and under players could really suit them with the conditions. You
can add Fraser Turner into that equation as well. He's developed into a good in and under player in the last season.
Yeah, absolutely. So, East Fremantle have a few of those types that can play small or tall as well. So that versatility will hold a key.
Yeah, it certainly will. A couple of numbers that really spark interest in this game. The points that they've conceded on average this season. East Fremantle conceded 63, West Perth 92. So that's quite alarming when you're looking at how many goals both sides concede. I mean, East Fremantle, that's really been the tale of their season. Their backline's been so stingy and not letting in easy goals. West Perth's back line hasn't been as such. They've been quite conservative, and that never is a good thing.
Yeah, they need to find a way to, I guess, come together as a back line. One player can't do it, so it really is a domino effect, really team defence needs to come first.
With that in mind, who wins this one on Saturday?
I think East Fremantle. I think they know the occasion. They know what's up for grabs, and I think East Fremantle. But I think it'll be a tight contest. I think it'll be, not too many goals in it.
Yeah, I'll say East Fremantle as well. Only by about 2 goals. I'd love to see West Perth, give it a real crack. They did so against the Eagles. Started well in each of the 4 quarters. Couldn't sustain it, but I think class is going to tell, and it's going to be East Fremantle that'll take the points in that one. That's at Pentinet Stadium in Joondalup on Saturday from 2:30 on the AFL app. West Perth and East Fremantle. And then the final game of round 16, as we mentioned, only 3 games on Saturday. This one is pretty interesting, but more of the curious out of the 3. South Fremantle at home at Fremantle Community Bank Oval. They've lost 3 out of their last 4. They take on Subiaco. If they win, they might still be an outside chance in making the 5. The wet weather obviously is going to be a great level, as we alluded to in the last 2 games that we've previewed here on Around the Waffle. And they've both come off some good close encounters against each other in the last couple of years. They met back in round 7. South Fremantle got the job done by 7 points over at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. We might see another close one given the stakes in this one. We talked about Subiaco, but the same can be said for South Fremantle. Lose, and they could potentially drop out of the 5 next week.
Yeah, these teams have had some really close losses of late, both of them. I think Subiaco, apart from, I guess, the first game that comes to my mind is East Fremantle in wet conditions. They haven't really got blown out of the water, Subiaco. And the Bulldogs, a bit unlucky, sort of losing their last 3 out of 4 games. But, this game, I reckon, is the most intriguing out of the 3.
Well, Subiaco's last 2 losses, they have been in close contest. Was against Peel Thunder a couple of weeks ago at Lane Group, for close wins rather. Peel Thunder, they won that one by 6 points at Lane Group Stadium, did the Lions. And then their last hit out before the bye was a 3-point loss to East Perth. So they've had a couple of close encounters. It's a question of how they can sew these games up. It's been 1-1 on that equation. But, you've got the likes of the Hickmott boys, Greg Clark, and also Ben Sokol and Jack Mayo up forward that could really make such a difference in this sort of game.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they are still a mathematical chance of making it, will give them that edge, that sort of all-in mentality. There's nothing to lose, no tomorrow. So I think that might help them to sort of give everything they have and see what happens.
South Fremantle, even though they've got some good players out on their best 22, especially with Winder, Schleith, Blenchton, and also Dylan Main and Brendan Donaldson, one of their biggest problems in the last month is their first quarters. I mean, you saw and heard Todd Curley go absolutely off at their players on the game against East Perth, and rightfully so, because it was a very ordinary first quarter. And again, they're not getting the necessary starts that they need. They need a big start against the Lions to sow the seeds of doubt.
Yeah, anytime you're playing catch-up in this competition, you're in some strife. So obviously a lot of emotion on the line with the tragic loss of Nick Campo throughout the week as well. So that'll hopefully give them a lift and an extra bit of motivation to play for all involved.
That'll spur them on. That'll spur them on. Every club that loses a player, no matter if it's league reserves or Colts, they feel they want to do it for them, because football's a big community, isn't there? It's a big community spirit that is a part of football, and I reckon South Fremantle will have that inside of them for young Nick Campo, and if they can get a win on the board, that'll do the great family proud. But it's going to be a tough game, no doubt about that. How will they respond to the emotion out of that?
Yeah, footy is a great vehicle, as you said, and very lucky to be doing what we do. So South Fremantle and Subiaco, I reckon, as I said, to me, I think it's the game of the round. I think it's the one where there's the biggest amount of question marks and the most uncertainty going into it, because I think both teams genuine chance to win.
Absolutely. The question marks on both sides as well. I mean, how South Fremantle go about it in the wet conditions, because, they at times aren't usually a good wet weather side. They usually play like the dry weather conditions. That could fall in favour of Subiaco, because their forward line in particular is not as much tall timber as what South Fremantle would usually have. So that could fall in the Lions' favour.
Your Mayos, your Sokols, your Borchettes, who's really starting to come into some form that we've shown, in recent years. So, Subiaco, they'll want an even spread of players as well as some goals from the midfield. I feel like if whoever can get more goals from their midfield, that's going to go a long way to deciding who comes out on top.
And with that in mind, who does take the points? It's a tough one to pick.
It is a tough one. I'm going with Subiaco. I think Subiaco might come away with it.
Well, they certainly do need to sense the urgency, because a win in this game would see them still at least right back in it with a chance of the 5, because the ladder, we'll take a look at it briefly. I'm going with South Fremantle, by the way. I'm going the other way. They need to rest that form slump. They've got the depth to do so, and I reckon the responsibility is going to be on Isaiah Winder, in my opinion. He's been a hell of a player this season with South Fremantle. He's had a bit of a lean patch, but I reckon he can lift his intensity this week against Subiaco. We take a look at the ladder just briefly, and the game for Subiaco is incredibly important, because if they win, there's still an outside chance of making the 5, because, they'd only be 2 games out, but they still need to keep on winning. That'd be a simple formula. South Fremantle, if they can win, they jump back up into 4th place, unless East Fremantle are able to get the job done. East Perth, if they should win against Perth, they'll get back on the top spot on the ladder. So there's still the permutations riding on this game, even though the gulf between the 2 teams in each of the games, as far as the ladder is concerned, is represented quite well.
Yeah, there's some huge circumstances and consequences both ways, isn't there? So, as we always say, I guess, come the end of the weekend, I think we'll know a thing or two, and some ladder movement might be pivotal.
It's going to be a huge round 16, make no mistake about it. All 3 games are live, free and in full on the AFL app. Here's how you can win big this weekend in round 16 of the WAFL.
Punt from 50, win. Little too into the game, win. Too cocky, almost a win. Risking it all for the glory, win. It's win-win at the WAFL. Great footy, food and entertainment. Find out more at waffle.com.au.
Okay, before we wrap things up, Rothy, we're getting to the later stages of the season, and Sandover contention has been a lot on everyone's mind throughout this week in the WAFL. But the question is, who's that predicted top 5? Who's going to be in that top 5 come the Sandover? There's still a long way to go, but where does the top 5 lay at the moment? Who do you think is going to be in that top 5 for the Sandover Medal in September? Generally, it's hard to pick, but, we've been asked to do this, so who do you think? Let's start things off with number 5.
Yeah, well, it's so widespread, isn't it? I think this year there's no obvious one, It could be a handful of players, but I think 5 could be someone like a Milan Murdoch in there. I think he'll rack up some votes. Obviously, East Fremantle haven't been as strong as they were last year, but I don't see too many people stealing votes off him in that midfield, so Milan Murdoch.
Yeah, I'd say Milan Murdoch would definitely sneak some votes for a couple of games as well. Consistency has been really good. How many votes he's going to rack up, that's going to be the question. I see Mitch Crowden being in that top 4 as well. He had a great first half of the season. Had a bit of a stalemate for at least 2 weeks, but he's back in a rich vein of form at the right time. He's emerged as a key goal-kicking mid as well, so that might allow him to snatch a couple of votes off some of his teammates. And I reckon the top 3 would be very, very close. Jesse Turner in 3rd. Will Brodie 2nd for Pure Thunder, unless Will Brodie gets called up to the Dockers in the second half of the season, depending on injuries. And I just can't go past Oliver Eastland. Can't go past Oliver Eastland to get into top spot. I mean, look at the numbers that he's had in the ruck. He's averaging 45 to 50 hit-outs a game. But also what's so good about Ollie Eastland is why he's the best ruckman in the competition is not only his tap work, but his follow-up as well. He gets everywhere around the ground.
Yeah, it's super noticeable, isn't it? I think interesting to see how the umpires rate it as well. Obviously, they're the ones doing the votes. So,
right.
Mitch Crowden, as you said, at number 4, I think he'll jump out of the box really early. I think he might get a bit of a lead. But then, as you said, players might catch up with him in the later rounds.
Jesse Turner in particular, he's had a great last month, no doubt about that. And he'll be in the top 3. Will there be a tie? Will he just fall 1 vote short? There's so much intrigue, still with only a 5 or 6 rounds to go.
And we haven't had a tie in the Sandover in a long time.
Not a 3-way tie since 1984.
Yeah, so it's been a while, and I reckon on the night it's going to be so intriguing. It'll go down to the wire, and could be anyone's game, really.
No doubt about it. It is going to be harder to pick than a broken nose, that race for the Sandover Medal, no doubt about it. That wraps it up for today's edition of Around the WAFL. Ladies and gentlemen, get yourselves to a game this weekend. The season is at the business end. You do not want to miss any of the action. Rothy, great work as always. I'll see you on Tuesday.
Thanks, Paul. Hopefully the wet weather holds off as much as possible.
No doubt about it. Fans, if you do get to the games at the wet weather, do get your brollies out. It is going to be a wet Saturday of football over at Leederville, Joondalup, and of course at Fremantle Oval. Thanks for your time here on Around the WAFL on YouTube and where you get your podcasts. We look forward to your company next Tuesday to recap round 16.